perspective. So don't freak out. Okay? We're going to just do some hand gestures and some prayers. But the essence is what's our mind doing? Yeah, things got really ritualized throughout Buddhist history in order to get your mind in a certain place. And that's all these cultural things are about, like the prostrations, like the beginning of class before you take in some insight. You try and purify your mind from any obstructions that you may have, so you could really get a realization. So it's all about what your mind is doing. So before taking teachings that might awaken us, we generate a universe of virtue. We imagine what the universe might be like with every being perfected, every being completely understanding what the world is about and how to act in it and getting everything they want and no suffering. So we generate that and then we give it away to that part of us that learns. So we say we offer it to your teacher, but to your idea of a teacher. So you may always learn. So it's all about your mind. So they do all these hand gestures called the mandala offering. It's actually quite beautiful if you can put your mind there when you're doing the physical triggers. So we're going to start with the mandala offering that Emily is going to start, and then I think, is that it? No, that's not it. Let me do it again. Here we go. Yeah.
Sashi
Jushin Metotra Rira Linchin Indegum Party Sangye Shindu Mipewarpi Dropun Nanda Shima Chiparsho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyatayami Shridam Zohi Choknamba Jangshu Bardu Dakmi Yasuchi Daki Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Shridam Zohi Choknamba Jangshu Bardu Dakmi Yasuchi Daki Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Shridam Zohi Choknamba Jangshu Bardu Dakmi Yasuchi Daki Shinyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho. Thank you. So we're on this revision course of 5 years of studying the deepest ideas of Buddhist philosophy. We're condensing this thing called the Geshe degree. It's like a doctorate in philosophy. It's what the Dalai Lama learned and a whole bunch of monks and nuns for centuries. And we have the privilege of getting our minds onto that as a condensed version in Western form, just the concepts, to try and figure out how we can apply these ideas in real, everyday life, to see if a transformation can occur in us. So we are not blindly walking around the planet, surprised that things don't work out, and instead have the chance to manipulate our reality with our own choosing, if we know exactly what would cause happiness and what would remove suffering. So the whole idea is to try to understand the nature of existence as we experience it, so we could, instead of blindly being at the whim of the unknown, We actually know, first intellectually, then viscerally, and then we become masters at that. And that does not take a week. It doesn't take a class. It unfortunately takes thousands of classroom hours, whether we like it or not, and then practicing it is even harder. But the results can be astounding if you just get an insight at what these things can do for you. So we're studying this book called the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. We're looking at the vows that one would take, the promises that one would take once you get through a certain level of understanding where your world comes from. You come to realize that with your mind, you can actually shape your reality. You also realize you don't have much time left in this experience of this body. So you want to hurry up. And whatever understanding you get, you want to make it on steroids so you get quicker results in transforming your experience. So it really is all about shifting reality. The study we do here is about, and the study that Buddha and all great traditions are about, is figuring out a way that you, specifically you, not someone else, can transform the experience of life. You might sometimes ride an awesome part of your life, and you should enjoy those because they go away. So when they come, you should really cherish them and hope that others can have that experience. But when things break, you should also understand that that is caused by something. So I wanted to reframe in this class this idea of bodhisattva vows. This word bodhisattva is a being who has this fervor to wake up, to get enlightened in traditional words. But really it means, can I just wake up? I know there's another reality just here that I can't see. Because when I try and do this, this happens sometimes and that happens sometimes. And if we're honest with ourselves, we don't know how to manufacture our reality truly. Guaranteed, 100%. We try this and sometimes it works. And if it sometimes works, it means it doesn't work, because it doesn't work all the time. So to know that you're creating the courses for a certain life means the action must always deliver you the same result. And the fact of our lives is it doesn't happen that way. But here is, I think, the way we would get from just hanging around on the planet unexamined, and then coming to a point where these precious things we're talking about, these promises we do with our minds and our actions and our words, can transform our mind. To get from a regular life to a point where you say, I want to promise that I want to wake up, because that will do something to me. It's a little bit of a journey, so I thought I'd map it out a little bit. We might begin with an unexamined life. We pop into this experience blind to the way things truly are. You know, we think we're going to get happy doing a certain thing because we get a buzz out of meeting someone, and all the hormones go off when you're a teenager and you meet someone and everything's going to be perfect and the world is going to be blissful. And at that time, that experience is a true experience. It's a real experience. You really are in bliss. At that time, when you're in love with someone and you forget about yourself, that experience is a real thing. And at that moment, you can't hate, you can't be angry, there's nothing that would destroy you at that time. There's no action you can do at that time that would harm, until that thing breaks down. And then the same person you were completely in love with, completely lost in, becomes this horrible person that is the source of all your suffering. Yeah, and you can't help but think that it's coming from them. Yeah, and we do this as a teenager once, and then we go, well, that was a mistake. It was her, sorry. It was her. So I need another one that's not her. Yeah, and so then after a while, you go and find another one, and then, oh, it's them. You know, oh, beautiful. I was right. She was bad. They're good. He's good. Here we go. Just be modern. Yeah. And then that breaks, and then it breaks again. Yeah? And if you're lucky enough to be with someone for a long time because you ride those waves, it gets subtle, you know? It's like, oh, those words that they said were so sweet and they're so funny. I know this from experience. And then the same words and the same joke, not so funny. After 5 years of exactly the same joke. Right, Stephen? So, unexamined, just running around the planet, we pop into here a little wild. And by wild, I mean that, not knowing what to grab onto and what to let go of to get those feelings. But pause. The feelings are real things. You actually were in love. You actually felt ecstatic. You actually felt beyond yourself to care for another. That's a real thing. You actually felt disappointed. You actually felt problematic. You actually felt hurt. That's a real thing. But where it came from is the unreal thing. We don't know where it came from, really. Yeah, we think it came from there or there. And so as creatures that pop into this planet, the grand majority of the 7 billion humans, plus all the other creatures, are a little wild, meaning we don't know reality. And so we react in a wild sense. Bite, bite, punch, punch, hate, hate. And that just, according to the Buddhist view, would just get you more of the same. So you go through some kind of transformation, and Buddhism would say most of us would come in here with some predetermined states of mind. And at some point, if you're lucky, you get this bachat-sepa, which is a seed in your mind, a propensity in you to be attracted to certain ways of being. You know, and you all have seen little kids who are so sweet, and they have a certain propensity to be sweet, and some little children who are completely evil and have the propensity to pull things apart. Yeah, I was one of those. And then, yeah, and Yuki was one of them too. Yeah, she's still one of those. We come into this world with certain propensities, and Buddhism would say that comes from something. It didn't come from nowhere. The awesome thing about Buddhist thought, and I wish we didn't have to call it Buddhist thought, there's probably this implication about the Buddha and religion. It's not that. Buddha, to awake, is just a state of being that one would have if they understood where things came from. You woke up to the fact that she didn't cause the pain in you. She might have been an instrument in that, but the pain was here. It wasn't there. And the goodness also wasn't there. It was here. Something put it there. And Buddhism, or wake-upism, yeah, is the practice of figuring that out so you can make that happen over and over. So if you're lucky, you've got some bachat-sepas, some seeds that arise around a certain time in your life. For some people, it's at teenagehood. For some people, it's in their 20s and 30s. Some people, it's in their 50s. But a whole bunch of inertia from a previous time, Buddhists would say a previous life, your imprints in your mind would project a reality that is attracted to certain spiritual things, to awakening things. Yeah, so they'd say for some of us, you're lucky to be attracted to figuring that out. Yeah, and then you have a major life problem. This is what I propose brings us to this class. You have some huge disappointment, some terrible news, some real shock. You smash your face against reality. Yeah, you've been sort of surfing the pretend world for a little while, and then something really hurts. Really, really hurts. And if you don't have the seeds, the propensity to try and figure it out, you might just get lost in the cause and effect. So you hurt me, I hurt you, which will cause me to hurt more later. That seems logical, but we don't act that way. I don't know that every vile thing I'll say to you when we break up is coming back amplified. I don't know that. So I vile to you on the last days of our relationship. I say the worst things to you. Yeah, and it might hurt her, it might not hurt her. But who heard it? Who heard the intentions, the energy behind those words? She did, and I did. And in my mind, it's recorded and it's imprinted. And every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and it's brewing. And I'm getting that back at some later time. Maybe when I'm with someone I really love this time, and then they say something that's completely like, but I've done nothing this week, and I've done nothing this year, I've done nothing but love you. And here come all these vile words. Where did that come from? Where are those feelings? Where is my mind shaping that idea? It's coming from me according to this. So if you're fortunate at a young enough age, you're going to have some terrible thing happen to you on this planet. If you're fortunate, because it should wake you up. Because otherwise, when you get it too late, it's too late. You're set in your ways. So when that happens to you, you become a child again in a way. You want to know, well, all the stuff they taught me in school wasn't really right. Cause and effect don't happen that way. I want to know where things really come from. Because all those theories didn't make sense for this instance of pain. There's got to be an answer. If that hasn't died in you, keep that alive. There's got to be another answer than the answer we usually buy. Oh, find another girlfriend, you'll be fine. Oh, find another career, you'll be okay. Find another body, it'll get fixed. No. You know, things on this planet continue to break. And if cause and effect is true, then you could find the cause for not breaking. That's a theory. So if you're fortunate enough, you are punched in the gut, smashed in the face with reality that leads you to go, I need to know, I need to know. All the normal things don't matter as much anymore. I need to know what this life is about. And if you have the seeds from before to be interested in that, you probably landed in your first Buddhist class or whatever methodology you landed into, some philosophy class or something that would answer the things that aren't being answered normally. You know, for me, it was this class 20 something years ago. I had all those things from before, and then there was something unresolved that I needed answers for, and I reluctantly came and listened to the weird Buddhist teacher that was sitting in this chair, and I was sitting there going, I've got a job, and I'm young, and I'm going to be fine, and I'm just going to listen to this, and it'll go away for a week or 2 or 3, and 20 something years later, here I am going, guys, there's some magic in here. There's some power in here, and it's not what you think it is. It's not magic as in, tomorrow I'm okay. It's actually a reveal of what's inside of you and how much power there is inside each of you to completely and utterly transform the way this world is for you. It's there, it's verifiable, first intellectually and then experientially, but it might take you 20 years and you might have to grow a beard. So you begin the practice of investigating, you get new theories for cause and effect. Why the hell did that happen and not that happen? If that's true, then why this? And that's what these classes have been about, but that's not enough. Studying, we've been doing these classes for 6 years now, and we're just reviewing some of these concepts. Study is not enough. It needs to transform into behavior, a shift in your behavior, a shift in what the commentary of your mind is saying when you're doing actions, because that is the essence that creates the experience you have inside. So if I'm always mean, yeah, but maybe I'm sarcastically mean, sorry, I'm choosing you too. But I'm sarcastically mean. Yeah, like, oh, I really like your hair. Isn't her hair nice? Right? So if I intended nastiness by being nice, and if that was my mode of being, and that became my default mode, for example, right? Sometimes she might think that's funny. Sometimes she might be hurt, true or not? But all the time, I know I'm digging at her, trying to hurt her. I know that all the time, yeah? That's in my mind. 10 years later, 5 years later, 3 months later, some other time, those things don't go away. They are multiplying inside of you and inside of me, whatever we think and intend. Those are called karmas, mental seeds, and they multiply and grow like any seed. Plant, result. Small cause, big effect. Tiny seed, big tree. Time. Yeah? You don't get the instant result. As soon as I say, oh, nice hair, I don't instantly get someone being sarcastic at me. Seeds take time to grow. So do these seeds, no more. So if I'm a person that does that all the time, and I did that for 10 years, and then, I don't know, I had a concussion and then I forgot to do that. And then I'm a new person in this world and I meet somebody. And someone says, Hector, nice hair. And they mean it. What would the propensity be for my mind to interpret those words, nice hair?
That they're being sarcastic.
Completely sarcastic, yeah? And so a feeling would arise in me going, what a bitch. And you might have meant it really nicely. And I misunderstood reality because I thought the feeling came from you. I misunderstood that it was all the habit I built inside of me that actually creates how I see this world. And so that's a summary of the real stuff we get to study in this process and all the implications of that reality. So it's like, we think reality is in a certain way, reality is in a different way, and you have complete control, just not in the moment. You have complete control to sow the seeds of your future existence. In fact, you're living in the forest of your past actions right now, right down to the atom. And all the beautiful complexities that is this world. Because the world for you is different than the world for me. Yeah, a warm class might be awesome, a warm class might be a nightmare. That also is caused. So you study this and you try and intellectualize, and that's so against the current of our natural way of being that it's tough to do. It takes effort and practice. But after you get enough, I guess, of the framework of wake-upism, of the idea that there is a different way of engaging with this reality that has all to do with the way you act and you think and you speak, and then you begin to see the effects of that. All you need is 1 or 2 experiments there, and then you get serious about it once you get a result from practicing a certain idea. Does that make sense, or am I talking too weird? I know what I'm saying because I've had these experiences, so tell me if I'm sounding weird, okay? After a while, you're like, oh my goodness, that idea that the way I act is the way I perceive and all its implications. I saw that in an experiment I did. I was going to be nice to you all the time, and then doesn't matter if I was grumpy or not, everyone's being nice to me. Where the hell did that come from? And you could see the cause and effect. You could see the result of that seed coming up, if you're lucky, within a year or so. Yeah. And so there are techniques for planting those seeds in your mind to make them come up, and that's all the study we're doing here, the intellectualizing. But once you get that, something shifts in you, and then you want to commit. You really want to be in charge of your own awakening in a way that is powerful, in a way that's like, oh, I've had enough of the old way of things being the way they are. I got a little result. I want to make that faster. And to do that, you need to do certain things to all the actions of body, speech, and mind. You need to do something to all the intentions that you put out there. There are techniques for making those seeds grow faster. Because you could just throw tomato seeds in the desert and it might take a long time. You might take a bunch of tomato seeds in the desert and then load it with compost and water it regularly and manage it and really tend to it, and they'll come up faster and stronger. The same with these seeds. There are techniques for every imprint you put. And whether you think you're making imprints or you don't think you're making imprints, if you have awareness, you're making imprints. If you had a thought, like if I could read all the bubbles above your heads that read all your real thoughts right now, how many of you would be embarrassed? Like me too. Seriously, if that was your manifest reality, and if we could all read it, how many of us would shift our behavior instantly? Especially on the train. So then the vows is one method, a powerful method, to quickly and powerfully plant those seeds so they'll have a quicker result. And if the Buddha is a Buddha, if a being that woke up and saw the cause and effect for what it really is rather than the way it appears, if a Buddha is a true thing, then their instruction to say, out of all the possible things you could say, think, and do, which will have results, here is 64 key ones, key actions of body, speech, and mind that you could do that will give you a powerful result quickly, a result closer to waking up. And these are called the bodhisattva vows. A bodhisattva is someone who, say it loud.
Spiritual enlightenment for the sake of all.
No. A bodhisattva is someone who
He's a pre-Buddha.
is a pre-Buddha, that's good.
Wants to awaken for the sake of all.
Who has this fervor to say, if waking up from the dream of things appearing to be a certain way, but in reality they're a different way, if that's a true thing, I want that now. I want it quickly so I can also help other people wake that up. Because I see my mom in cycles of her own sadness. I see my brother in cycles of self-harming. I see my friend all excited and getting his girlfriend every 3 years and then not having her every 3 years. And then looking for another one. So I see beings around me, and if I figured this out and it worked, I want others to really get that freedom for themselves. So to do that, I better turn this machine on, this understanding where the world really comes from. So here are 64 promises, vows, commitments that shift the way you engage with your practice of all the stuff you studied because you had a major problem, because you had a propensity to understand, because you wanted to wake up from a wild way of being. Does that make sense? And the Buddha wasn't the only one. I'm not sure if sound's going to come out of here, is it? No, it's not. Let's try. If there's words up there, but these are words from Einstein himself, recorded, so you might not be able to hear it.
It might come out of the projector.
Can you see it? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do this just so there is background sound. Arrangement. Let's do that. Yes. Display. Color, sound. No. Internal speakers. Okay. Let's try that.
For those of you that are like back there, there's some room. Like if you don't want to be crowded, like there's a cushion here.
Yeah,
There's some room here. Over here, some of them.
Yeah, while I destroy my computer. Steve, can you help me with the arrangement or not?
Yeah.
I think I just did something bad. Display. I want to get off the Apple TV. You know, I don't want it to be up there. I'm not what? I know, I want this to be there. Thank you. Okay, is that up there? Yeah. No. No, it's gone. So it looks like there's no sound, but you can read it.
Not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by not participating in anything you believe is evil.
He asked yourself not mere with the technical focus of pursuing and maintaining peace, but also physically practical of education and enlightenment. Science is providing the possibility of liberation for human beings from hard labor. When the ideas of humanity are war and conflict, those who become unstable after labor in the hands of a cycle. The fate of humanity is entirely dependent on what is developed.
I thought that was amazing. I came across that today because.
What year did he say that? What year is it?
I think there were recordings from different times put together. Yeah, and it was early recordings. The thing is that a mind like his, who was investigating truly investigating the nature of existence, could come to a conclusion that says, hold on, there's a dependency on the way our consciousness is. A tool is a tool. If our intention is to harm, those tools is like a razor blade on the hands of a 3-year-old child. But if our intention is to awaken and enlighten, which is, I thought that was amazing, then morality, the intention through which you do action, becomes the way our world becomes. Yeah. So if our intent, and that's the amazing and incredible link between morality, a wish to treat others the way you want to be treated, yeah, a morality, because it creates an impression in your own consciousness. And if you only see yourself being kind, really kind, understanding, compassion, loving, and that's all you're putting into your consciousness, then what must you experience in return? For real? Nothing but that. Yeah? And that is a being that investigates the world through physics, gets to the point of understanding that no, that there is something that doesn't matter what the material world is, it's dependent on the way your code is in the world in relation to others. And I thought that was amazing. So what we're studying, just to quickly summarize again, is the practice, it's called Mahayana, greater vehicle, the practice to wake up so we can help others wake up. So we can free people from these unexpected troubles. Yeah. And it's a powerful behavioral transformation tool. If you change it in here, it changes out there. And a little bit about the vows. Unlike other vows, you can learn them before you take them. In the vow practices of Buddhism, they follow you from life to life. And I really want to make one thing clear in the entire class. I'm going to use words that might have a certain implication in the West, and I want you to understand these words as, it's not that somewhere out there, this behavior will naturally give you a result. If I just do this and I'm not paying attention to my mind, you're not going to get these results. The transformation happens because your mind is hyper aware of how this works and what these actions are. So according to Buddhist thought, taking on these promises, promising to yourself that you're going to be hyper aware towards kindness and eliminate negativity, and you are planting all those seeds, that will begin to infect everything in your mind. And so that propensity will follow you from life to life, with the assumption that your mind and your body are not the same, and that your mind continues beyond death to some other place. Wherever it goes, it's going to have all the seeds, all the actions you've planted here. And so if you have in that the promise to wake up for the sake of others, that's also going to be your propensity moving forward. It is also possible to break these vows. And for years, I thought, oh, very Catholic about this, because I grew up Catholic, you know, like, oh, Jesus is going to punish me because I broke a vow. You know, it's like somewhere out there, I'm breaking something. When I say breaking a vow, I want you to realize that if your reality comes from every action you do, because your mind is infected with your intention, and all your experience is the echoes of that intention and action, breaking a vow means a short circuit in the flow of all the goodness you've been doing. Somehow not doing it will stop you from having the blissful experiences, and in that sense breaks a vow, because it breaks the result for all the stuff that you've been building up inertia to experience. Do you see what I mean? If I'm going to try for 1 year to just be kind to you, I don't know, you know, right? I'm going to be kind to you because I was mean at the beginning, right? For 1 year, I'm just going to be kind. My awareness is tight. Every time I see you, what's your name?
Kaylee.
Kaylee. Every time I see Kaylee, I'm going to go, be nice. Yeah? Don't say anything about the hair, be nice. Right? And just making that promise now publicly means next time I see Kaylee, what's going to come up in my mind? The propensity to be nice, right? So I'm going to do that. And if I do that for a year, then I've got that as a habit. Yeah, and every time I see Kaylee, I'm like, oh, hi, hi. And then, oh, you remind me of Kaylee. What am I going to do with her? Be nice, yeah? And then I grow that propensity. But let's say at 11 months, I go, oh, screw this, it's not working. I hate your hair, you know? I've damaged the entirety of that effort. So next time I see Kaylee, I'm going to go, I'll give up. Instead of, I'm going to, until it became a proper habit. Do you see how we can break a vow? And the break is not like, you're a bad person, you broke a vow. You just destroyed your own future. That's all breaking a vow means. Yeah? So I don't want us to think about it in religious context, because we know vows from a religious context. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in you having an understanding that whatever goes in comes out. And that's your reality. And it's different to hers because whatever goes in comes out. And that's her reality. About the same thing. Who loves tomato soup? Who hates tomato soup? Okay. Is it coming from the tomato soup? No, it can't possibly be. If it was, everybody must hate it or love it. Yeah? So there's something in us that's forcing that dish to create an experience for us. And if you go and look for it in the particles of tomato, you're not going to find it. Einstein just told you that. The physics guy. So tonight I'm going to briefly talk about, okay, what are some of the vows and how are they broken in that way that I just told you? But before we go there, I want you all just to quickly review with each other the class we did last time, which looked at the essence of a vow, what bodhisattva is, and I think the second, vows 10 to 13, just for the sake of thinking through it. Yeah. So I'd like Sarah to take a group in this corner, and here is do a quiz, and you've got the cheat sheet. Yeah. Do a quiz, and I want Rachel to do a group in that corner. Here's your quiz, and everybody get to know each other. Say hi. You got 20 minutes to hang out and talk about the implication of these things, because you're all people with the same Bachak Sepas. Stephen to take a group in that back corner, and Supriya and Emily to take a group in this corner here. Yeah, and I'm not sure if you got this that I sent online, and here's a printed copy. You got it? Okay, cool. Of this, you got it? Of the vows I sent? Can you find who doesn't have it, and then just in case? Sure. That's just details on vows 10 to 18.
Okay. Oh, your name is here?
That looks like the popular group. That looks like a massive group.
That's brilliant. I'm not sure what you
There's an Excel spreadsheet that has everyone's name on it, and then
And don't forget to explain the weird Buddhist terms to people, okay? Make them explain the Buddhist terms that you understand. and it say good words. Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah.
Describe Jason Papa's reactions to the idea that you're not used to following
Is that the answers?
About secret balance, there's like Jason Papa is saying people that follow this type of house still have to follow the other house.
Once you learn to use the secret house,
Okay, so I don't know.
They're talking about like lower now, or
Yeah.
opening up their
When I'm like, I feel that sometimes like these senior hours like going inside of my mind. And all the I remember when I was living, when I was 4 years old, before that,
Awesome. That's really cool.
That's what you hear. It's basically that way of thinking.
After that, I talked about
You're in the 18th group that follows up the Bodhisattva vows using the short
and so there's all these people were doing that back in the day. And there were all of these and people that say they're fine were misled. And oh, when I do that,
So Steve, that's in the handout I just gave you. Yeah, so you can, and it's all the commentary, so you can talk about details.
Yeah, but I just realized you gave me the answer key too.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we lock up that right now? No, you guys, are you standing? There's like 100 something. If you want to take on, which really important take on these, and
even
well, altogether,
so all of them are going to require everything is just
so then there's the root down vows, the Bodhisattva vows, like you
don't worry about that.
any of the vows,
Be like,
if you break these vows,
all of
kind of
them
going
makes the
totally back. So the first one being destroy the town. I mean, it's kind of like if you destroy a town, you probably don't have to wait.
Story is that so they definitely you have this switch, this desire.
Alright, so strength time.
That literally
To break the shot, literally means strength.
You're not choosing.
Yeah, or
That should be like, that's what a
things that you would think like kind of ancient stories of babies coming and evil babies coming and destroying the empire.
For me, I
We
would
would
get
go
up.
much more common 2,000 years ago for tribe or. It's super common. We might put it in our boxes.
Yeah. The next one is the whole
That's a good way to start. And that's actually serious because
why positive,
so the way we start when we don't
why I should be because the only thing that I'm
like, oh, I really want this coffee. And what is it about
nature, like everything everybody has.
That's not even what I'm talking about, but it's like, it's definitely,
No matter what I'm saying, I treat it how I want to be.
so like,
Yeah.
and when you get deeper, anything that you utilize,
The whole vow here.
So what you think about
Throw them.
instead of and then doing all of these and then being like, we actually wake up and say, what is it that I would possibly say? Sure, yes, or maybe you're all like, that's what it is. That's what really especially when you're having teaching them and But this is you'll see.
So you're still noticing like all of us are down fast, so we're kind of abandoning these.
There's so like some passions that you might have. You might have this wish for you're still retired.
So the first
And you're only
some of the vows, so the body, like some of them say, do not ever do that.
one degree.
And so
But when he just read it, if you're teaching, there's different understandings of
you can't just say, because it's the and then also it makes sense.
then you might deter that. Like if you're teaching a lesson, like how to talk about, and then you might deter that from going.
And doing, okay, so when you talk about the more, I say, here is those first. Oh, okay. Freedom now. So all the yeah. Number 10, right?
I think this is actually the line.
11 is teaching different.
Yeah, I feel like that. When people get attacked.
And this is there's a way to know. So like you don't break this down. And that's
Good, very specific.
the way that you phrase this down.
Yeah, of course.
So someone's keeping their lower level.
And she has
And then if it was empty,
or escalating, obviously, when someone was. But you also understand it's very important to kind of change another person's mind and change your karma that they change their karma. Of course, yeah, this is the suffering.
So if I say
It's workshop criteria. Have you thought about moving here?
so if I do something close, like if I go up to people and I love it,
Most people, most people don't have
it almost feels like now it's habit in my mind, you're not being careful about
And
it.
he also
Yeah, and that's important. Another thing that I saw here that is very important because the letter is to become an advocate. Yeah, to become an advocate and publicly help others. Like you're planting seeds to really help others. You can change legislation because you are thinking about that. It's not just me.
When someone knows like say I'm studying
Yeah. It's really good. You can imagine the results of that video and the learnings of building that and make those biggest results we can. And because of that video, culture changes, all the people watching the film and enamored with that will also change their behavior thanks to the efforts of the I can imagine the results being that culture empowerment of people. Destroy that the biggest example and rejoice as cause and effect in the world because you dedicated and you just grow it and really rejoice that there's these people that listens to that, there's this girlfriend there is this hope all I can make you do is to enforce that. If you want to go further, then you have to put others in yourself seeing the world from an enlightened point of view, and you witness bodhisattvas and Buddhas rejoicing as you're doing it. You see what I mean? Like, there are minds watching this right now. Similarly, we can't talk to them, that's what we're watching and aware of the minds. So that for you to imagine that, also colors every one of your seeds with all the mind. It's in the Buddhism mind. It's called you see what I mean? That makes find a secret. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Any complaints? I'm listening. Rachel, how far are you in? Okay, you guys? And I made that last Steve, how long do you need? A minute? Okay. Richard, how long do you guys need? Well, I'll give you 1 minute, they need a minute. So we're talking about the sum of vowels, just the suffering of the vowels. Can you hang out and have dinner with us after? I'll wrap up past 5:30. Just around the corner. And do you mind who comes? No. Stephen, maybe Sarah. Supriya, I don't know if you've met Supriya yet. She's the boss.
I came a few weeks ago to hang out with
Oh, nice.
when everything first started.
Nice.
I reached out to her.
Good. When I was in China, right? When you were posting all the things. I'm so sorry. You are a powerful woman. You are most people who's already been working. And you're like,
I go back to the
thank you for coming. Thank you for connecting as well. I'm trying to think what else I can do.
Really good target
You're saying you're volunteering and donating at the shelter?
I just started.
Rachel might have some tips there. I mean, we've worked in homeless shelters, ourselves, family shelters. We've given domestic violence for kids, dads. But she does that on a regular basis.
That's why she's able to
I'll go through it. You guys done? Everyone's name on the quiz? Yeah, thank you. Let's take our seats, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, did you write that? That's your writing.
Yo, what?
So good.
That's amazing that you're here. How are you? Yeah.
It's so neat. I know, right? It's scary. I'm not competing or anything, but look how well she likes. Oh, she's your team. See, not competing, I told you. Or pass around the names. The quicker you do it, the less people will say, hey, I know your name. Good. I'm planting karmas by putting your names on these things, right? So we all have the mental imprint that you did something else, or it's already recorded in your consciousness. Woo.
I can still have hands up.
Yeah, but get stop making out of us. That's what we do.
Do you want all the
Rachel's
papers?
got it. You can keep whatever you don't need, but if not, you can give it all to Rachel.
What?
Stephen was just asking me. Can you guys see that or not? You guys want to move a little? Yuki, that's the third time. One more time, and you're in big trouble.
I can do that
I just hit it.
3 times as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Can I get a report on your teachers, on the senior students? How was Sarah?
Excellent.
Yeah? Okay, you think?
Fantastic.
Okay, I saw Rachel over there with energy and power. You can be honest. Yeah, there's some people going like that. No, they were like that, not even in jest. How is Stephen, guys? Yeah, Peter and Peter? Yeah.
We put him through the ringer.
Yeah, good, good. And Emily and Supriya over there. Yeah, you guys had like a mega group with all these weird discussions in between. It was really good to see. Everyone was so nice to hear actual genuine application of this. You can see how we could get lost in weird Buddhist words if we just followed the words. If you just read these, you'd be like, well, what the hell, it's not applicable. But the fact that you have people like Sarah and Rachel Stevens, and Emily, and many others who understand what it means to apply it to your everyday life gives you a glimmer of understanding that, like that, every single word in the Buddhist canon is powerfully applicable today. But you got to learn it, and that takes time. Yeah, and it's so easily removed and becomes just a concept or some weird word like bodhisattva or don't destroy towns and don't profess the opposite. And it can just be a weird thing, but it need not be a weird thing. In understanding that vow of not destroying towns and cities and so on, you realize that these teachings of imprinting just the right thing in your mind so your world can transform was also given to kings and queens and regional power people so they don't plant the seeds to experience their world being attacked in their world. So if you understand that because you've studied in the commentary, it all makes sense. And then you can say, well, I could use that. I'm not going to go and destroy towns, but mentally you might. Mentally you're like, I don't like them folk over there. I wish harm comes to them. And that's all you need, a mental imprint that then becomes a habit, that then becomes a physical or a verbal action. And that's all you need, it's just a mental imprint. So we can, if we know exactly how to interpret this, you then have power back to you to manipulate your world. Now that doesn't mean that it will happen instantly. You still have to go through the practice phase, which can take lifetimes. So I'm going to just cover the key concepts. Next time we get together, you'll review the answers of the most essential questions, just like we did here tonight. So I'm just going to give you a couple of insights, hopefully. We can take these vows, we can make these promises, we can create an alarm bell in our minds to say these are important things to focus on, so my mind can generate a world where everything is bliss. I can create that. So I like tomato soup. Yeah. So if you plant the right seeds, you will always be forced to love tomato soup. Yeah. Even if you hated it before, if you planted the right seeds, then you must see that red liquid as nothing but elixir. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because some people had the seeds to see it as that. If you figured out those seeds, you could do that for you. And just like that, you could do that about this, about that, about yourself. And about your process of aging and your process of dying. That's the game. Yeah. So here is a shortcut: 64 vows, promises that break up into something like 128 if you break them all up separately. Like don't destroy towns and cities and so on. That might be 4 vows. So we now have an instruction manual on how to plant just the right seeds that would accelerate that wake-upness. Does that make sense? Knowing it doesn't mean we do it. So just as easily as we can manufacture that reality to be real, that can be broken. Yeah? And there's a couple of ways to break vows. If you see a big number in yellow on the top, that might be the homework question for those doing the homework track. Yeah? So you're going to hear some weird words like holding wrong views. I remember hearing this 20 years ago and thinking, oh, these are just a bunch of religious zealots. Everyone is wrong, they're right, blah, blah, completely misunderstanding the point. 2 classic types of wrong views in Buddhist thought. Can someone give me the boring answer and then we'll unpack it?
Aerial view?
Aerial view? Can someone keep Stephen out?
Not believing that karma is...
Not believing in karma
word.
and not believing in
in
past and future lives, right? Doesn't that sound weird? Yeah? Doesn't that just sound bizarre from a Western point of view? Oh, if you don't believe in karma, you can't get enlightened. What? That's a trick. Yeah, I remember thinking that. But if you listen for a second, you might get the insight. Yeah, like tomato soup, everything is like that. There is no nature in tomato soup that makes it nice. We discovered that recently, right? Like in the last half hour. There's nothing in tomato soup that forces you to experience that liquid as awesome or terrible. If there was, every tongue that touched it, if the essence of goodness was in there, then every tongue that touched it must go, woo, awesome, or tomato soup. That's all emptiness means. That liquid is empty of having yumminess or yuckiness. Simplified, yeah? That's all emptiness is. It doesn't mean blackness or blanking out. That's all bull. Yeah, emptiness means that thing lacks, is empty of having a nature of yummy or niceness or yuckiness or even tomato-ness. Wow, yeah, or redness. What? It is completely empty of having any of those qualities you experience in that thing. That's all emptiness means. Prove it that it's not redness. A bat doesn't experience that liquid as red. If it did, if that had redness emanating from it, everything must conceive of it as red. Yeah, we got that, right? Heavy concept. If that's true, which you have to study and figure it out, then where the hell is the redness coming from? Because it is red and it is tomato and it is soup, right? You can't pretend it's not. Just because we disprove that that nature was coming from it, doesn't mean it's not tomato soup for you, yeah? So where the hell did tomato soup come from? This way or that way? Something in my consciousness, something in my engagement with it, something with my formulation of it, despite myself, forced me to experience that as tomato soup. I'm not sitting there going, I'm drinking the orange juice right now that I am projecting in the bottle that I'm holding, that my mind doesn't see as holding, that, you know, etc., etc. We don't do that. We just act in the world. So do ants, so do elephants, so does everything. But under analysis, hence meditation, you figure out that none of that has that nature. And our whole existence is a fabrication in our mind labeled upon otherwise empty objects. Empty meaning not having those natures. And that's reality. There is no other reality than the one forced upon us from our mind onto empty objects. If there was another reality where this was only orange and always orange and nothing but orange, nothing could perceive it as anything other than orange. And we know that's not true. That does not exist. That is not a truth. That is the trick. That is the illusion. And just like that, so is this, so is relationships, so is work enjoyment, so is aging, so is death. Whoa. That's the theory, right? So if it's not coming from here, I figured that out, it's empty. It is coming from here. Can I choose what it should be? Not in the moment. I can't say, I want it to be tomato juice. It's still orange juice. And I really want it to be tomato juice. It'd be gross. Right? So it's not something you choose in the moment. Yes, your mind is experiencing that. It's forced upon you. And the theory is based upon the imprints you put in your mind. If it's nice, you've got nice imprints. If it's revolting, you've got revolting imprints. You gave someone substances to eat that you knew they weren't gonna like tomato soup. Yeah. And that gets to the study of karma, which we're not doing here. I'm just doing it as an example so we can get to the top karmas that would transform our life. If we figure out the top karmas, the bodhisattva vows and the pratimoksha vows, which I'm sure you talked about in your things, right? If these vows, these promises to act in the world in the way that I want the world to become are true, and we're actively working in them, you can break that. Like I gave the example of being nice for a year. You can break that. And there's a couple of ways. Holding wrong views. Remember we started there going, that sounds self-referential and circular. But if you understand where things come from and that you've got imprints that force your reality, then one major wrong view, the classic example, is not believing in karma. Yeah? all it means is forgetting or actively choosing to ignore the fact that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That you could be horrible in private. That if I did that terrible thing behind closed doors and nobody saw me, then I'm going to get away with it. Actively believing that you are exempt from the results of your own actions. That makes more sense than not believing in karma, right? You believing that if your partner is not watching, you're actively on the phone with another person going, hey, I really like you, you're so sweet, and your intentions are going off, and you know what your partner would be thinking. But because you hid it, because you're all on your own, you think, not getting to me, I'm exempt. That stupidness, yeah, is not believing that you're getting the results of every action you're doing of body, speech, and mind. Actively. I have to make this difference, right? You have to be certain that it's not true, that you are exempt, and you have to hold that view strongly in your mind, and that would disconnect you from the possibility of changing your world. Make sense? Mm-hmm. That's why it would cut the virtue. That's why it would destroy your vows. It would destroy all the goodness you've done, because you all of a sudden are destroying the system that works. You're actively saying, no, that's not the case. Yeah? No. Another way of cutting these vows, of destroying all the good work. By the way, you lose one, you lose them all. Yeah? You actively break a root vow, you destroy them all. Meaning all the energy you put behind this whole effort to become a bodhisattva, a being that wakes up for the sake of everyone else.
So if you're still actively working towards, so you're gonna.
Well, I'm going to talk about it, but correct. If you're sitting there going, I know that that's what, intellectually, I know that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, but I can't help myself right now. That's different from going, that's all bullshit, and I'm really exempt from. I'm exempt really, yeah, from the results of that action. And I'm certain about it, I'm firm about it, I'm holding about it. Yeah? And it's also different from having doubt of whether or not that works. Holding the possibility, logically it makes sense, but having intelligent doubt is actually encouraged. Like it's part of the path. You shouldn't believe it because I said so, that would be stupid. You have to figure it out yourself. Yeah. So it's not like you're cursed because now I just told you that if you don't believe it, you lose. Yeah, it's not like that at all. It's actually the fabrication of your mind upon understanding that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Every thought you have is going to result in an experience for you. Every intention you have towards others is coming back to get you. Yeah, and then everything you say to someone, with the recorder going, I mean it nicely or I mean it terribly, it's coming back for you. Not by some magical bearded dude or a wand, yeah, by the very power of your mind projecting reality on otherwise empty objects, objects that don't have that nature in them. The nature we experience in them comes from us, from that stuff we put in there. Make sense? Cool. Another way to give up the work to become a bodhisattva, a being who just needs to wake up for the sake of everyone else waking up, yeah, is to actively give up that wish. Make a solid decision going, you know, similarly to holding wrong views. You go, I'm done. I don't give a rat's about the suffering of everyone ever again. I really do not care for them waking up. May they all burn in hell. Yeah, or something to that nature. When you actively cut yourself, that's a way of going, okay, that whole system isn't going to work for you. You can't generate bodhicitta if you reject that bodhicitta. Getting enlightened for the sake of everyone else is what you're going to be doing. And that is equal to giving them back formally. You can say to your teacher, the person that gave you your vows, you can say, you know, it's not that I don't think I can succeed, it's different, yeah? Well, we all are trying to achieve the results of these vows. It's different to that. It's actively going, you know, I'm sure I don't want these. I'm sure I don't want to get enlightened for the sake of everyone else. I'm certain of it, 100%, I'm done. And that would cut you, that would break, destroy the vows, the energy that you've created in your mind to generate that kind of environment.
But that's, sorry, can I ask the question?
No.
Okay.
Because I want to be done in half an hour. If we've got time, we can ask the questions at the end. Yeah. Breaking a root vow, which are not vows 9 and 18, which was your questions from last time. And what was vow 9? Do you remember? Wrong views, right? Yeah, which we just covered. And what was 18? Giving up bodhicitta, which we just covered, right? Those are the two worst, yeah? Every other vow requires 4 chains, yeah? 4 states of mind. Did I say 4 chains? Yeah. Actually, there are a bunch of secondary vows, I'll just throw that out there for question 9, that you could break or damage, not necessarily destroy the entire vow, but you will damage your bodhisattva ideal, either intentionally or out of forgetfulness, yeah? If you saw yourself damaging doing certain actions, that would damage the results of those actions that you've been planting in relation to that, yeah? So I want to cover the 4 chains. Is that what we're up to or not?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, you said, can we break a secondary vow for that?
Oh, okay, and that's the answer. Cool. So here's the 4 chains. The 4 chains are 4 afflictions, 4 states of mind that all must be present whilst you're doing a certain action in relation to those vows, and they must be firm. And if they're all present, then you've broken the vow. They're sort of hard to break, yeah, because then you've really damaged the essence. And they are, you're willing to commit that particular thing again. Let's say it's harming another living being. What was vow number 1? Let's go to vow number 1, just so we give an example. Yeah, vow 1 has 2 parts: praising yourself or criticizing others. And we talked that didn't mean saying nice things about me and saying bad things about her only, right? It was specific to, who can remember?
Dharma teachers.
Other paths to awakening. So get that, right? Praising yourself, criticizing others. Other paths to awakening, which there must be. Yeah, there's other methods of waking up. This is one method. Yeah, saying about those other practitioners, I am so much better than them. What I say is really, really good for you. Yeah, you should all give me some money, yeah, for personal gain. So criticizing others for personal gain or attention or fame to try and get me to be special, even though they might still be saying something correct, yeah, aware that they are saying something correct. And I am criticizing them not because I want to debate with them or analyze or come to an agreement, but because mostly I want some personal gain. Yeah. When you catch yourself doing that, for example, yeah, don't go to those Buddhists down the road. They're a little stupid. You know, even if, and I must be aware that they're not a little stupid. They might be stupid, but I am, you know, but I am aware they're not stupid, that they are teaching some valid path. And I'm actively saying that, aware that I just want your attention and your money. Yeah, some material gain or personal gain. With that awareness, I say to you, don't go down there, they're a little stupid. I'm recording that. You see that? That's vow 1. Like that, we have 64 of them. When doing that, I am willing to do that again. I'm like, next time she comes, I'm going to tell her about them. Don't go to them, because they're also stupid. You know, write me another check. Do you see what I'm doing? So that's chain number 1. Chain number 2, I don't have any shame or consideration. And these are 2 words that are a little loaded for the West, but shame means, what does it mean, shame? Behind closed door, I'm not personally embarrassed about having done that, yeah? I think it's okay to do that. I don't have any kind of ickiness. The implication is, for number 1, willing to commit the particular wrong deed again. If I had a minute of doubt going, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, that's it, I didn't do number 1. Even if I did that 3 months later. Yeah? Did you hear what I said? Does that make sense? Yeah. For number 2, if I'm like, oh, I can't believe I said that to her. I really want her money, but maybe I shouldn't have said that. Then I've got some kind of shame about it. And consideration is, damn, now she's got a bad impression of this center, or I'm embarrassed because she heard it and she knows it's not true, and I've got some kind of embarrassment about the effects on others. If I've got any of those, I didn't break the vow. Yeah, it's getting technical, but I didn't break the vow, so I didn't break the first 2 chains. Make sense? About that particular one. I derive a sense of enjoyment, of satisfaction about doing it. It's like, ha ha ha, those Buddhists down the street, they're gonna get it. I'm so excited that she's not gonna give them the check. Ha ha. Yeah, I don't know why you would do that, but you would. Some people would. But we have those potentials. And lastly, you don't even consider the thing to be wrong in the first place, yeah, which is connected to your shame or consideration. If all those 4 things are present, meaning you've not doubted whether it was a wrong thing to do or not, and you're not sure whether you should do it again, if you have a little minute of doubt going, I'm not sure if I should do it again, then you're going through a growing pain. You're not destroying the vow. You're like, I can't help myself. I'm a liar. I can't help myself. That's different from going, I know what I'm doing, and I really want you to stay here. And does that make sense?
How do 1 and 4 they seem?
They differ, right? I know they look the same.
They're different. The first one saying you know it's wrong, you're going to do it again, and then the 4th one is you don't consider it to be wrong.
Well, you don't know if it's wrong. So if it's number 4, you don't even consider it to be wrong, even though someone told you it was wrong, even though the Buddha said it was wrong. Yeah. Okay. You might think it's wrong, but you're willing to do it again. If you had number 1, you probably have number 4. You see what I mean? But also the difference is that.
I think what you guys are noticing is just a translating issue. I don't think that it's worth like it. It's saying that the wrong deed that we are collectively naming the wrong deed.
Yeah, I see.
Committed again.
It's not a partition, like these overlap. It's just to cover everything that needs to happen.
There's something very good about this. They're in order. The first one could be reread, instead of willing to do it again, it could be willing to do it before you do it. And so these can be read as, number 1 is before you do the act, number 2 is as you're entering the act, number 3 is while you're doing the act, and number 4 is after you've done the act. And quite often it's not exactly worded in the way it's on the screen to mean that sequence of events.
Okay, I didn't know that was sequential.
How could you break a deed if you haven't done the deed yet?
Before you're about to do the deed, having no apprehension to do it, number 1.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do it again, having no apprehension to do it a second time would be still number 1 before you do the deed. Versus number 4 is after you've done the deed, you've done it. I just killed someone.
That's true about the last thing.
You know, I'm justifying it.
But this is talking about breaking a vow, not about to break a vow.
So can I let you have that discussion next week when we answer this question in the quizzes? Yeah. Thank you. Yes, if you have these 4 chains, you would break all the deeds except vow 9 and 18, right? Which is a hard thing to do, but all 4 must be present according to the text. You can retake the vow. So let's say immediately upon doing the 4 chains, you say, no, I want to restore that vow. I'm recommitting myself to this ideal. You can retake those vows, and you can do it like a minute later, and they are real vows. Your mind is really imprinting the idea that you can generate this ideal again, and so on. You can take these vows over and over. However, Jason Carper, the commentary that we're reading, says don't get too relaxed about the capacity of being able to retake the vow. It's not like confession on Sunday and then you can keep doing the stuff. It will have a drastic effect in your capacity to have what's called the direct perception of emptiness with bodhicitta in this life. Yeah, it would have a breaking these vows, breaking the ideal that you should wake up to help everyone else wake up, will damage your capacity to have that as a visceral experience in meditation, in one of the peak experiences. So Jason Kappa here says, yes, you can take them up immediately, but if you break one root vow completely, it will damage your capacity to have what's called the direct perception of emptiness, which is the visceral experience of seeing reality for its true nature, meaning you see that tomato soup isn't tomato soup, and you see how tomato soup is only coming from your mind, and it's not just an intellectual exercise, you actually see it as a truth that you understand everything is like that. And having that experience with a flavor in your mind that that would liberate every living being. That second part would be damaged. The capacity of saying, may I use that to liberate every living being. That is cut in this thing. There's another vow I want to talk about quickly, which is failing to break a rule. What was the vow? Failing to break a rule out of compassion. Yeah. So can someone tell me the 10 non-virtues really quickly? No killing, stealing,
lying, sexual misconduct,
sexual misconduct,
and
Lying.
The first
harmful
three.
substances.
Huh?
Lying.
Lying,
Idle talk.
idle talk,
Harsh
divisive
words.
talk,
Harsh words.
and harsh words, right? And then the last three?
Wrong view.
Covetedness, coveting.
Being happy when other people get what they want,
Ill will.
and ill will, and wrong views.
Yes.
The first 7 are actions of body and speech. The last 3 are actions of mind. There is a vow that says, you are allowed to break one of the first 7, yeah? Failing to break a vow out of compassion, yeah? So there's a vow, a bodhisattva vow, a vow to help all living beings that tells you, you are allowed to break any of the first 7 of those 2, killing, stealing, have sex with other people's partners, don't worry, you'll be fine, yeah? There's a vow that says, lie to people's faces, you're allowed to break that out of compassion. If you don't, you've broken the bodhisattva vow. That's heavy. So big warning, yeah? Notice that first of all, they didn't do the last 3, yeah? Which is coveting, ill will, and wrong views. Acts of mind, yeah? Being unhappy when people get what they want. Being happy when they don't get what they want. Yes, they did.
Because it's compassion.
Huh?
Because that would be not compassionate.
You couldn't have compassion and break that.
Yeah.
Well, these are actions of your mind, right? The others are action of body and speech, yeah? So a couple of things. There might be circumstances where a bodhisattva, a being who's working to help every living being, might need to do something that looks like breaking any one of those vows. Yeah. The classic example is a Buddha in a previous lifetime was on a boat, and he saw with his mind that this person, sorry, I'm so in trouble today. This person, it's just that this person is going to kill the 500 people on the boat. And if I don't do something now, they will have the karma to experience the result of killing 500 people. Plus, the 500 people are going to die. So I've got to do something right now, and there's no other way to fix it. I can't go talk to them. I can't lock them up. So the Buddha killed that person in the story. Yeah. As an aside, the Buddha did that with full awareness that they must experienced the complete results of that action, and they were willing to take it on. Yeah. So then they killed that person. The 500 survived, and Buddha went to hell for a minute and then came back. And took a couple of people with them. Yeah. On the way out.
On the way out.
Yeah. On the way out. Yeah.
It's called an hellbound.
Yeah. It's the hellbound. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And it's also giving all virtue for the benefit of others. So he gave away, the Buddha gave away all of that accumulated virtue.
But it's a very different act than just killing someone. Okay? So the warning sign is here is that vow is not for everyone. There's a few prerequisites and they're detailed. I've given them in the sheet that tells the vow. The vows is like 10 different. I've only given it to some of the students, to the people who are leading the groups. You must be a bodhisattva, meaning you've been practicing for thousands of years, very well versed in the path. You know all the ins and outs. There's no other way of getting out of it. You've practiced for years here. You have great compassion. You're not doing it for any kind of personal gain or to harm or anything like that. It's only for that, to remove the suffering of beings in the only way you could see it. You know how to use skillful means, and there is no other alternative. Yeah. So the warning here is don't even bother with that vow until you've got all those qualifications and you've received the certificate from Buddha. Yeah. Good. Then I want to talk quickly about this, the practices of the 4 virtues or the 4 points. Yeah?
4 pints.
4 pints. It's a beers that we drink.
Is that a liter?
Yeah. Who's up to the 4 pints?
Just say PTS.
I'm gonna go there.
That's against the
What
You're
is
allowed to break the financial of non-intoxicants and no alcohol.
that? 4 pints? Yeah, absolutely. You do 4 pints. That's why you got question 5 next to it, because it's the. That's a joke for those of you who don't know. It's a Buddhist joke, which is Mexican. I heard someone in the corner there talking about some of these points of virtue. I think it might have been you over there. Someone yelled at you in Starbucks or something, right in the end. Yeah. I heard that conversation. So the practice of responding to someone who's aggressive or terrible to you in a particular way, not the normal way, was actually the way I entered this understanding. For me, I had this horrible, yelling, angry boss who was a complete bastard, right? From his own side. He was the source of all my problems, and all my pain came from that creature. Yeah? I didn't know it was coming from me. And my first practice, which I also didn't know because I wasn't versed in this, from the teacher that taught me these things, said, don't have to worry about all the Buddha stuff, just do this thing. Try to see that yuckiness isn't coming from there. That there's something in you, everything you do, say, and think, try and change that to love, compassion, understanding. Don't hate, not even for a minute. Even though he's yelling at you, just do the opposite. Love them. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah? So act in a specific way towards them for a couple of months and see what happens. Yeah? And I was desperate. I had tried everything else. So it was one of the pints of virtue. I didn't know that's what he was forcing me to do. That completely transformed the way I related to that person. And for the very first time in my life, after 3 months of very difficult practice, someone yelling at you, your body going bright red and anger, and all you want to do is punch them in the face. But you promise this Buddhist dude that you're going to be kind. He says, if you can't be kind, then shut up. At the least, shut up. Don't create more imprints in your mind verbally of hate for hate. Eventually, you'll have enough control to not even let the words come out. Yeah, even though they want to be there. And I had a month of the words being here, but not here, you know? Which meant all the thoughts were going, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
What if you get hurt?
No, yeah, if you get hurt, you avoid it. Yeah, this wasn't the case. Yeah, he was definitely hurting me emotionally, I thought, yeah, until the experiment finished. If it's physical, no, you can't do that, okay? That's a different thing. And then at some point, I actually gained muscle for not even vomiting out the angry words. I built muscle for holding the word somewhere here, and it felt horrible and tense in here for another month. But for another month of genuinely practicing, like he could do anything he wants now, I knew I wasn't going to speak, at the least, but I had it here. And I felt it arising. And then after a month, I didn't even feel it. I just felt the impulse, and then it stopped. I'm like, oh my God, this is working. The guy's yelling, his head is red. Yes, sorry, you're the guy and the guy. Yeah. The guy's red, yelling, screaming, saying vile words. I'm not even moved by them anymore, 2 months in. Same words. It's like tomato soup. Yeah, Hector, you're an idiot. First month, oh my God, I'm an idiot. No. Second month, he's like, no, you're an idiot. Third month, he's like, punching, no, leave him alone, look at him. Yeah, look at him. Third month, at the end of noticing that go away, in a millisecond, in one moment that took 3 months to build, in one moment, in one tiny moment that took 3 months to build, yeah, I couldn't even see Gary, the angry boss. He was screaming and he was yelling and he was angry and he was moving his limbs. But for the first time in my life, I saw a being who was just angry, who was just hateful. And it wasn't touching me anymore, but I knew it was going to cause him pain for the rest of his life. And I had this kind of love and compassion for him. The same person that was a complete bastard, right? The same person I wanted to punch in a short period of 3 months. I transformed that person from the source of my hate to the source of my compassion. And those same words gave me a feeling of love and wanting to help him. I just wanted to help him. I didn't even see him for a moment. I just saw this creature, you know? And to me, that gave me the power to say, if I can do that with him, then I can do that with sadness, and I can do that with depression, and I can do that with everything else, because he's empty of being the source of my pain. The source of my pain comes from every time I push out pain. The source of my yelling, or being yelled at, is me yelling at someone, even mentally. And I proved it to myself. I can't prove it to you. Yeah, and this came from this, the practice of the 4 pints. Yeah, it's like not responding in kind when someone yells at you, for example. I didn't know. He was just like, oh, pulling out some Buddhist list and going, yeah, you practice this. Because I came to him with, my biggest problem in my life right now is this disastrous, angry boss that I've got. It's destroying everything. Everything was tied onto that experience. How do I stop it? Because oh, Buddhists would say, stop yelling at others, particularly him. I'm like, no, I can't do that. He's yelling at me. I want to yell at him. Buddhists say that's not how it works. Don't yell back. See what happens. And that happened. And it happened in a way that to this day, 20-something years later, it's unshaken by the experience I've had in the world. I can't prove it otherwise. I know that my world comes from my actions. I know it in my skin. It's not just intellectual because of that experience. And then I practice that with other things. And some things are working and some things are not. Like the haircut. Don't respond in kind when someone gets angry at you and puts you down. Yeah? Because if what I'm saying is true, things don't have a nature and cause effect. Yelling at someone would cause what? In your world, more yelling people. Angry and putting other people down will create what? More angry people in your world putting you down. So it's this horrible, vicious cycle that's not even based in reality. The anger that I got from, that I experienced from him, I'm so sorry, that wasn't in him ever, but I thought it was. That never existed. There wasn't in him any part of the source of my pain. Not the decibel, not the words, not the wideness of his mouth, nothing. That was empty, but I believed it was. Yeah? And so I would act in kind. And acting in kind just gets me more. And so all I did is broke the cycle. But it took me 3 months. It was the best and most horrible 3 months of my life. It changed everything. Absolutely everything. It changed the way that the world looks. It gave power to me in a way that I didn't think I had power in this world. No one else was deciding my reality. So if you don't want yelling, don't yell. When someone gets angry, put you down, don't get angry, put them down. Someone hits you, don't hit them back. It doesn't mean don't protect yourself. It doesn't mean don't report them. It doesn't mean any of those things. If you think about it, someone doing harm to others, who are they really harming ultimately? The deepest harm that will come to beings that are aggressive and hurting others. If they're recording it all, and every seed grows and becomes more, they're going to have to experience every hit multiple times expanded. And so there's a compassion that comes, compassion doesn't mean let yourself be hit, let yourself be yelled at. It doesn't mean that.
But what should you do if you get hit and you don't respond?
Yeah, you can respond, but don't respond with hitting if you can avoid it. Yeah, you don't put yourself in that situation again if it's harming that way. Yeah, you can't put yourself in that situation again if you know it's going to create hitting. Yeah, but not out of here's the source of hitting. You have to think, where did hitting come from? Yeah, like example, the words that he gave me, Hector, you're stupid, caused so much pain. Yeah, the words didn't have that flavor. For him, those words were nice, joyful, exciting. Hector, you're stupid.
But was he thinking that they were?
Yeah, he's like, I'm superior, you're inferior. You're stupid, look how good I am. I'm assuming that's what he thought.
Yeah.
He was enjoying the fact that he was yelling at me. Otherwise, he wasn't yelling at me. Yeah?
Yeah.
So for him, we don't do anything out of hurting ourselves. We do everything to get ourselves happy. And he was thinking yelling at me would get him happy. Yeah, in the ultimate sense.
Or make it better.
Or make it better or whatever. That's what I mean by happy. Yeah. So these 4 points, you see what I'm saying with the hitting, it's dangerous, right? I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way. I am not saying that. I'm just saying if you want to hit somebody, if you think hitting them would stop you being hit, you're wrong. Because if you did, nobody would be hitting anyone. Because there'd be no war. Because if the way to stop war is to bomb someone, how many years have we been bombing? No, seriously. It doesn't feel right because we think the world comes this way. It's a hard thing to do, and we misunderstand the context. If we really think that the only way to stop aggression is with aggression, it's not correct. If it was, then all the aggression we've ever done to each other on the planet should have stopped aggression for good. Every bomb we've dropped should have been flowers coming out of the earth. And the body parts of children, happinesses for everyone. Harm does not create peace. Sorry, peace creates peace. Apple seeds don't create banana trees. Banana seeds. Or whatever comes, whatever creates banana trees, creates banana trees. It's hard to hear. It's even harder to apply. Harder to apply. Yeah, I didn't have physical violence, but if I did, I'd have to stop them. They say if you see someone doing harm, think of them like your mother gone crazy. If your mother had gone crazy and came at you with a knife, you're not going to knife her in the face. Yeah? You're not going to do that. If assuming you love your mom. Yeah. I know I am talking to a Western audience, you know, it's different. Everyone's got mummy issues. assuming everyone loves their mom, and your mom has gone wild and is coming at you with a knife, you will not stab her in the face. You will try not to harm her and remove her capacity to harm you. Yeah? You wouldn't go straight for the face.
Well, what if we're talking about countries? Like, if one country keeps bombing another country, like America, Syria.
Yeah.
Shouldn't Syria respond back to do something, or just keep?
I'll give you the example of the Dalai Lama, where Tibet got bombed by the Chinese in the 50s. He's never said a negative word about the Chinese people, because the Chinese people are not the people making the bombs. He's never retaliated, created an uprising, because he understands that whatever action you do, you're going to get back. Yeah? So it's the same for wars. It is a paradox for us that don't understand cause and effect. We think that if Syria bombs the US, it'll all be fine. It's not going to be fine. 9/11, America got the Twin Towers blown up. That happened for no reason at all. We didn't do anything to deserve that. That's not true. It came from cause and effect, cause and effect. Yeah? So yeah, of course. So the thinking that we could create harm and not expect any result at all is actually the source of our suffering. It's actually the source of our suffering. And so there's a different way to engage with the world, to wake up, and it's a very different way. But you have to test it for yourself. And when you get validation, then you've got tools to actually manipulate the world. The fourth of the 4 pints is not responding with criticism just because someone criticized you or put you down. So these are 4 of the main things we experience all the time: being yelled at, being angry at, being hit or punched, or being criticized. We want to protect ourselves from these things. Yeah, and if we want to stop that cycle, then don't respond in kind, which does not mean be a punching bag, does not mean be a yelling bag, does not mean be a criticizing bag and then be depressed for your life because you're a victim and life's terrible. It's not what it means, okay? It's an active engagement to stop that cycle of hatred or anger or hitting or criticizing. Is to stop that cycle. And first of all, you have to stop it intellectually. Sometimes you're going to have to stop it physically. If you don't want hitting in the world, don't hit the world. If you don't want criticizing negatively and putting down, don't criticize, hate, and put down. It's pretty simple. Banana parts create banana trees. A couple of more pints. There's a bunch of stuff in Buddhist thought that, according to Lord Maitreya, we should not just cut and go, that's completely wrong, that's not going to work for me. Yeah, every part of the Buddhist speech, every sutra has an application. And so there is a lot of Buddhist thought, wake-up thought, like the discussion we're having right now is like, hold on, that doesn't work for me because I don't want to be hit, etc., etc. It's very good that you should have that analysis. You should have that analysis. If something seems weird and we're not yet in a place where we understand it, the advice is to protect your own mind. So when you get to that point, it works for you. Is not to outright knock it and go, that's it, that's not going to work. Is to put it on the shelf and say, maybe later. Yeah, I'll review that later. But for now, I've got this doubt and that doubt. A typical example is I'm sitting here talking about past and future lives as if it's a given thing. You should not believe that. That's not what you should do. You're like, I have doubt about that. I don't understand why that would occur and what does it mean by past lives. And so reserve have doubt, analyze it, don't knock it all together, put it on the shelf and go, when we get to that discussion, I want to understand this, that, and the other. And that is encouraged. You have to actively be part of the understanding of the fabric of existence, because that's an imprint in your mind too. I want to understand existence. And here's this language I don't understand, or this perspective I don't understand. Knocking it all together means you won't get the results of that. You see how it works internally? So anyway, there are things called the 4 black deeds and the 4 white deeds. Is that what's up now? Yeah. Yeah. They're like an addendum to the vows, and these are 4 key things that we should do and to try and keep our minds as pure as possible, returning a world of bliss and enlightenment, and the antidotes, the things that they work against, right? So never speaking a lie to every living being. Imagine if that was possible. Never speaking a lie to every living being. What would the result be?
You would only hear the most perfect Dharma ever.
You would only hear truth, right? If the theory works, if you actively said, I'm not going to lie, not just verbally, but not even here, like, oh, hi, I like your hair. Yeah, not even mentally, yeah? Say, oh, I'm going to tell her I like her hair, whatever. This would remove the black deed. Doing that habit would remove the black deed of perhaps lying to the source of where you get this enlightenment. So lying to your Lama or something like that. If you build a habit of never lying to a living being, if you should ever be in the presence of the only thing that streams wisdom to you, and you find yourself in a spot where you might want to lie to them, this will prevent you from that. Yeah, and like that, bringing others to strive for total enlightenment, meaning you encourage others to not just think of themselves. If you want everyone to wake up, you should get them or trick them to help others. Yeah, it's like, oh, I really want this for myself. I know, but I'm saying tricking as in, no, there's about, skillful means is what I mean.
Even in jest.
Yeah, but we have to think about in jest, okay? So then you can eat a lot. See, I just did it in jest. Bring others to strive for this ideal of waking everyone up. What I mean by tricking is using skillful means. Yeah, thank you. Because the only way people are going to get what they want is if they share what that thing is with others, is helping other people get what they want. So if I want you to get happy, and I know you being happy is getting orange juice, I'm going to try, instead of just giving you orange juice, I'm going to say, why don't you share your juice with her? Yeah, which will plant the seed for her to have other people give juice to her. Yeah, cool. And it works against causing a person to regret virtuous deeds, yeah, which would be a terrible seed to plant, yeah. So then you'll get this. The one that I like the most is the next one, because it connects to some secret practices, which are more advanced, but to try and see every living being and place or things as completely and utterly pure. And in practice, this would mean if you're in charge of the seeds that are going in your mind, okay, if you're in charge of those, and we just discovered that this doesn't have a nature, that the nature comes from my past deeds, that tomato soup doesn't have a nature, that comes from my past deeds, that the yelling boss doesn't have a nature, that the nature comes from my past deeds. If that is true, the implication is that that is true for everything and everyone, that everyone sitting in this very room might seem like just normal New Yorkers, might seem like normal New Yorkers, because that's what you're experiencing. But reserving the possibility that instead of being normal New Yorkers, there are beings calling you to wake up. Already enlightened beings who are the butt of your jokes, willing to take it with a smile, to try and get you to wake up. Secretly going, with it. So, and an enlightened being in every being you walk past. Just reserving the likelihood, trying to see that. So as you're walking down Manhattan, yeah? And I know for some you're going to go, well, that's mostly likely, not so likely, but possible. Yeah, that is an enlightened being. Yeah, some people are easier to, sorry, I'm using you now. Some people are easier to assume that they are like the people bumping you on the train and so on. He said, oh, they're trying to get my anger up. Oh, could be an enlightened being in disguise. It will do something to your mind. Yeah, you're still bumped. It doesn't matter. You were bumped, but you just used the bump to wake up. You planted a different seed than anger. Yeah. So maybe New York isn't just a rat-infested, stinky thing in the summer. Maybe those scents also don't have a nature, reserving the possibility that opens up the world for transformation. So I love this. And the last one is an attitude of total honesty, free of deception towards every being, which counteracts the tendency to act selfishly with every being you're engaged with. After you take on the bodhisattva ideal, then every interaction should be laden with the wish to get them enlightened, the wish to get them free from suffering, the wish to get them enlightened.
Do these also need the 4 chains? Like, we talked about the 4 chains in
relation to the
root downfall.
To the root and this, yeah, the root downfalls.
But I thought the 4 chains applied to all of the bodhisattvas.
Yeah, I think they do. Actually, I don't know.
Okay.
I thought mainly the root, and I thought mainly the root. The secondary vows damage your bodhisattva vows, but don't break them. The root vows break them. Okay. I'm going to just ask you to look at these, so then I can do the last one. How to keep these well is realize that these things are like a gift instead of, oh, it's something I have to comply with. You intend to have them, to keep them, and to use it to help limitless beings. Upon that, you take some vows, you actually make a promise, and you try and keep them. And then you try really hard, you keep them as the most precious thing you have, and then you try sincerely to not break them. And the last one, no more after this, is the main reasons we might break a vow is because we don't know them. So become a master and get to know them. We know them, but we're sort of careless or lazy. So try and apply a mindset that is watchful, and there's a practice called a 6 times book, where you stop every couple of hours and you check whatever the promises are or the efforts you're making in your practice, so they're top of mind. Or you know them, but you have a major mental attack and you can't help yourself. So you might be angry at someone for 3 months, because you're so afflicted. So in order to prevent that, then get to know the propensity we have for our major afflictions, whether it's anger or jealousy or whatever it is, and just work on that to try and remove that completely. That's the example I gave you with angry boss. And if you get rid of that, then you're less likely to destroy any goodness that you've done in relation to these practices. And then just disregarding the vows in general. With that, let's do a quick dedication. I tried to finish at 9:30, it's 9:38, I apologize. Yeah, it's pretty good, they say, because it's not 10 o'clock. I know, yeah, I tried. One more sentence, that might be very long. That might be very long. I know that we covered lots of detail and lots of things that relate to Buddhist words, but, see how the sentence continued, but these are ideals, impressions in your mind that will create your future. You have to get to the essence of them. These are the key to speeding up enlightenment. And in them is the secret to your awakening. So get to know these things. There's a whole course of 12 weeks in relation to this. Get to know them. This was just a taste. With that in mind, that we just heard the possibility of freedom from suffering, let's dedicate that to others, and give it away so we plant the most awesome seed.
Sashi Puhir Jushin Metotram Viram Nishir Nindempardi Sange Shindu Mitevarki Viram
Nanda Shimla Shiparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kambiryatayami Digavu Sunam Yashe Sosokshim Sunam Yashe Vijunwe Damba Kudi Taparsho. Thank you so much for going through so much data in a short sitting. Yeah, we think we did well. Next Thursday, will not see you, but Rachel and the team will see you for a special event.
Yes.
That will cover.
Well, so I don't know how many of you came last week. Most of you weren't there. So last week we went over things in a little bit more detail and then spoke about actually practicing. So it became a little bit more of like a conversation and question and answer period where people were just kind of bringing up thoughts or questions that they had, and then Stephen and I were answering. Next week, I'll take that aspect, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to work with my main affliction, which is anger. And I'm assuming some of you might have encountered this thing called anger while trying to practice. So we'll talk about that, and then I'm going to teach on how to purify.
Yeah.
Also,
okay.
I was thinking of doing the 4 forces, and then maybe we can do a mini purification.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So there's a very amazing practice called the 4 forces, where all the stuff you've already done that you now realize, hold on, I'm going to get all that back. You can minimize the effect of that in your life by reframing, rethinking, analyzing, and doing something to that mental construct before it comes up in your life. So if you've spent a life yelling and you're expecting 10,000 yellings, you can reduce that by using this thing called the 4 powers, which requires a certain wisdom, a certain understanding and technique, but it really functions. So I highly encourage you. It's a great time to come together. I'm going to be in Peru.
Does that correspond to class 5 of this coursework, or is it a separate thing from the ACI coursework?
It comes from course 5 of the ACI coursework.
How does it correspond to class 5 of course 7?
I'm doing class 5 when I come back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So
it'll be deeper on 3 and 4. Is what it will actually be.
So because we talked about vows, bodhisattva vows, it's in relation to those. Yeah.
And then, because the first class in this course is canceled, does it extend a week after originally extended?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Enjoy. Thanks for being part of my